Welcome to the History Geek Podcast. This podcast explores the hidden side of history. Today's podcast will be exploring Mary Surratt. Was she guilty? And who is she? First of all, you may be asking, who is Mary Surratt? And why do I care who she is? Well, Mary Surratt was one of the first women hanged to death in our history. Mary Surratt was involved in one of the most famous assassinations in the history of the United States. I bet you can guess whose assassination that is. Our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Mary Surratt was born in Maryland sometime between 1820 and 1823. No one knows for sure on the date that she was born. She married John Surratt in 1843 at a very young age and proceeded to have 3 kids. John and Mary moved to Washington, D.C. in 1843. John developed a drinking problem throughout their marriage because he didn't like how religious Mary was becoming. The couple struggled financially, but in 1853 the couple purchased a home, a tavern, and a hotel where they rented it out to tenants in Washington, D.C. The small area became known as Surrattsville. Unfortunately, John Surratt died in the middle of the Civil War in 1862. Surrattsville was rented out to help the Confederates during the Civil War. However, in 1864, Mary moved from her farm to the townhouse. Mary, her daughter, and her son lived in the home. They had to give up their farm because Maryland ended slavery in 1864. They rented out rooms in their townhouse to people who they knew. 1864 was also the same year that Mary Surratt was introduced to John Wilkes Booth. Did you know that John Wilkes Booth originally planned to kidnap Lincoln instead of kill him? Somehow his plan actually turned into a multi-assassination plan. Lincoln was supposed to be killed, the Secretary of State was supposed to be killed, and the Vice President was supposed to be killed. However, John Wilkes Booth was the only successful person to pull off his assassination. The Secretary of State, William H. Seward, was stabbed but not killed. The Vice President wasn't even attempted by George Azeroth because George decided to go drinking instead of killing. So what was Mary Surratt's role in this crazy assassination plan? It all came back to her nice little boarding house. The men met at her house and they figured out an assassination plan. Mary claimed to know nothing of this plan. However, on the day of Lincoln's assassination, Mary delivered a nice little package that had binoculars in it for John Wilkes Booth at a very famous theater. She claimed that she had no clue what was in this package for John Wilkes Booth. She also told a tenant before she left that guns needed to be ready for the party when they came home that evening. Booth and other conspirators stopped at the boarding house after the assassination and quickly grabbed loaded guns. Mary Surratt became the first woman in history to have ever been hanged to death for a crime. However, historians still debate today if she was guilty or not. There will be more information and evidence presented in the next podcast. Let us know what you think of this podcast by emailing your thoughts and concerns to KarenRuthStockwell@gmail.com.